Why doesn't the Prime Minister do as much for Ukraine on trade right now?
This is absolutely out of control. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Chrystia Freeland announcing that, well, actually technically it's Zelensky announcing that Chrystia Freeland will be the economic advisor to Ukraine while she's still a sitting MP. You're just as shocked as I am. We also have an essay Aaron O'Toole wrote. Convenient, it's praising Mark Carney. I blast him on this. He gets pissed off, tries to discredit all of my work. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off with some polling data. This is coming from December 26th to January 3rd. You gotta remember, Maduro was captured on January 3rd, and the main takeaway here, you're seeing the Liberals and Conservatives basically tied 38 to 37, but the NDP gaining 6. Now, I believe this guy, how he does his polls, this is based off of the last election, not the last poll, but this is still a 6%. I mean, the NDP haven't increased at all over the last year, so 6% increase basically in the last week or so, and I expect this is going to continue to rise as new polls come out after all these leftists are melting down over international law and defending the murderous dictator that is Maduro. Got this update here from Larry Brock. It says, breaking, Liberals are breaking another key promise again after publicly pledging Canada would meet NATO's 2% GDP defense spending target by the end of year. The Liberal government has quietly walked it back with no transparency, no explanation, no accountability. Despite repeated assurances, Canada is reportedly 9.4 billion short, and the government is now refusing to release its own internal spending estimates. Of course they are. So this originally coming from Blacklock's reporter here. Just another failure, another broken promise by the Liberals. Now, a few updates from Venezuela. We got Marco Rubio here commenting on what he thinks about the UN. So to tee this up, I think the reporter said something like Venezuela had nothing to do with the street candy trade. He's sticking it to the reporters here.
Oh, no, you're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source. And the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the UN. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
And that's why he's being brought to New York to face charges, because he's indicted multiple times as a street candy trafficker. So I don't know why the left are having this big meltdown trying to protect a drug trafficker. They're absolutely crazy. What we have here is a reenactment. This is not real. This is from a movie, but this is reenacting what Maduro has done to his own citizens. He's ended thousands of his own people. The guy's an absolute monster. Anyone who supports them needs to check themselves into a mental hospital. Now, with all of this, we have the leader of Colombia trying to taunt Trump here into come and capturing him.
A mí no me amenace, aquí lo espero si quiere, no acepte.
So I don't know what he's trying to prove here. I mean, unless he's the street candy trafficker himself, this is just more Trump derangement syndrome here. They didn't just go after Maduro willy-nilly. He was indicted, and then they're like, okay, we can go in. And obviously now they're going to take advantage of oil in the process. So all these deranged leaders and leftists, they've exposed themselves. I can't believe how many delusional people there are. Moving ahead, we've got CTV. Canada beware. Trump's Venezuelan invasion is a clear warning shot. Yeah, here's more fear-mongering from mainstream media. I don't watch CBC Globals and CTV for the same reason I don't eat out of the toilet. Moving ahead with this bombshell news, what do we got? Chrystia Freeland named economic advisor by Ukrainian President Zelensky. This is not a joke. This is not April Fools. We've got Robert Fife posting this as well. Complete madness. We've got Zelensky himself posting this on X. Today I appointed Chrystia Freeland as an advisor on economic development. Why? Canada's economy's in the toilet during her tenure as finance minister. Chrystia is highly skilled in these matters and has extensive experience in attracting investment and implementing economic transformations. Oh, really? Highly skilled. Name those skills, please. Right now, Ukraine needs to strengthen its internal resilience, both for the sake of Ukraine's recovery, if diplomacy delivers results as swiftly as possible, and to reinforce our defense if, because of our delays by our partners, it takes longer to bring this conflict to an end. I'm grateful to everyone who is ready to support the state of our engagement with partners. Glory to Ukraine. What a complete clown show this is. This should be against the law. You're seeing a bunch of pushback against this. Brian Lilly with this one, Chrystia Freeland cannot sit as an MP in the government caucus or even as an independent MP and be an economic advisor to a foreign government, ally or not. She needs to resign her seat before working for another government. Conservative Andrew Lawton posting this, you cannot serve as a member of parliament and collect MP salary while working for a foreign government. It's that simple. Conservative Roman Baber with, to be clear, Chrystia Freeland is still a sitting member of parliament. Not only did she lack the decency to resign her seat, this is a blatant conflict of interest. Liberals get away with everything.
Canada's former Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, has been named Ukraine's economic development advisor. So Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made the announcement this morning on social media, writing this, quote, Ukraine needs to strengthen its internal.
So I just read that out, but
Chrystia Freeland has experience in attracting investment and is highly skilled at implementing economic transformation.
The investment they're attracting is Canadian dollars, American dollars. That's not investment. That's just taxpayer money that we get zero value for money. We're doing this again. We're on Transparency International, the global coalition against corruption. They rank countries by corruption. The lighter the color of the country is, such as Sweden and Finland here, and Norway, the less corrupt they are. The darker they are, like South Sudan and Somalia and Myanmar and Venezuela, the more corrupt they are. So first off, benchmark, Canada sits at 75 out of 100, and I've already gone through this before. We used to be like 92, and now we're 75. We keep dropping. America sits at a 65. Australia sits at 77. All these Western countries are dropping. France is 67. United Kingdom 71. So what's Ukraine? Ukraine's right here, 35 out of 100. That is abysmal. Sure, Russia's 22 out of 100. They're more corrupt. Put this in comparison. What do you think China is? Do you think China is more corrupt than Ukraine? You probably would think so, but according to this index, no, 43. China is less corrupt than Ukraine. And if you're wondering, it does show the top here. The top country is Denmark, and then Finland, Singapore, New Zealand, Luxembourg. Least corrupt country in the world is Denmark. But we can see Ukraine is ranked 105 out of 180 countries. That's awful. Let's compare this to a couple other websites. We have this one here, Trading Economics. It's showing the same thing. Denmark is a 90, lowest amount of corruption on earth. And scrolling down, where do we get Ukraine? So same thing right here, 35. We have another website here, ourworldindata.org. Same difference here. We've got Ukraine, 35. I suspect some of those sources are all using that same data. I've got another website here, Risk Watch Initiative. This is using some different data. They do the opposite here. So the darker the color, the higher the score, the more corrupt the country is. In this case, we've got Ukraine here with a score of 51, ranking them 126. You can see Russia is 51.8, so they're 127. In contrast, we've got the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's a reason I bring up that country all the time and all of our money that's being sent there. You can see their rank is 194, the score of 80, so highly corrupt. Any of the money that we're sending over there, it's gone. It just disappears. Goes to someone's bank account. Is it going for gender-sensitive farming and solar panels and this, that, and the other? Probably not. I've tried calling these places. They hang up on me. They don't answer my emails. Looking on this website here, Freedom House, this basically ranks countries based on their level of freedom. You can see like Afghanistan, not free, a 6 out of 10, and it has a freedom on the net score, nations in transit score. So if we scroll down, first off, we got Canada here, 97 out of 100 free. Yeah, this is dropping. Well, you can see it has dropped here, 85 out of 100. Freedom on the net score, so online freedom. But Ukraine here is partially free, 51 out of 100, and their freedom on the net, internet, 62 out of 100. 40 out of 100 for transitional or hybrid regime for the nations in transit score. So the question is this legal? Is she allowed to do this? We have numerous conservatives saying this, Brian Lilly, and what I think is happening here, we have this article from CTV. It says, while Canada's conflicts of interest cites several things MPs are not allowed to do, such as engaging in outside professions or employment, this does not include specific language about advising a foreign head of government. We got this one right off the Office of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner's website, stating, when performing parliamentary duties and functions, a member shall not act in any way to further his or her private interest or those of a member of the member's family, to improperly further another person's or entity's private interests. Obviously, this is a bit of a joke because, well, what has Trudeau done for 10 years now? Mark Carney, announcing the Red Chris pipeline is a major project and he holds shares in it. I mean, our country's completely ridiculous. We also have this one here right off a government website, publicsafety.gc.ca. This is talking about registering Chrystia Freeland essentially as a foreign agent, because that's essentially what she's become here. And it says if their activities or arrangement with a foreign state is not limited to in any way by virtue of registration under the FITAA. By registering under FITAA, individuals and entities are simply transparent about their connections and support Canada's national security objectives. So basically, she has to act in Canada's best interest, not only in Ukraine's best interest, or detrimental to Canada but beneficial to Ukraine. And we've got this one here also from the Ethics Commissioner's website, which I think ties this all together with what's really going on here. It says the Conflicts of Interest Act prohibits reporting public office holders from engaging in outside employment, and a number of other activities. What I think has happened here is Chrystia Freeland is taking this job unpaid. It's a loophole to get around it. She's allowed to do this if it's unpaid. The rules would be much stricter if she was a cabinet minister. She resigned as cabinet minister. This is all planned. Now she's taking on this role. She resigned from Mark Carney's cabinet on September 16th, 2025, so just a couple months ago, became the special envoy to Ukraine. You got to remember, her son is the godson to Mark Carney. She resigns. She becomes envoy. She also joins Roadhouse as the CEO in the UK. Rhodes Trust. This was in November 19th. These are strategical things being rolled out here. They planned this months ago. I don't think this is just some willy-nilly thing. Hey, let's just send Chrystia Freeland over there to help reconstruct Ukraine. She suddenly has this desire to reconstruct Ukraine and help advise the economics over there. So now she's sitting in our government and she's going to be an economic advisor to Zelensky. She's getting around it because there's no personal gain. That's what it says in the law. No personal gain. It's a loophole because she's not getting paid over there. That's what I think is happening. I don't know for sure if that's what's happening. Maybe she resigns in the next 24 hours. But really, if she was going to resign, she would do it first. So it's either they're running a loophole here or the Liberals are awful at their optics and planning things and doing things the right way. It's one of these two. And I thought this clip here was very suiting. Melissa digging this one up. Chrystia Freeland met George Soros in 1990, the same year he set up his foundation in Ukraine. And just a reminder, this is the same George Soros that has been funding Palestinian protesters in America and Canada.
I first met you in Ukraine in 1990 when you began those efforts. There were many years, I think, when it seemed it was all useless. Does it say something to you, teach you something about open society, civil society building?
Well, yes, because basically, in many ways, I set up the foundation in Ukraine in 1990.
Yep, got some corrupt people in bad places. I thought Canada Proud summed this whole situation up very well with this. Step 1, write a book about plutocrats. A plutocrat is someone who has influence because they have money. Step 2, help destroy Canada's economy with massive deficits. Step 3, send billions of Canadian tax dollars to Ukraine. Step 4, get hired by Ukraine. Step 5, remain a Canadian MP. Step 6, become a plutocrat. Canadians need to seriously consider what is going on here. Oh, and that reminds me, I had to throw my laundry on here, just got some towels to fold and stuff. So Canadians really need to consider, what exactly is Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, what are they up to here? Do they have Canada's best interest at heart? It seems a little bizarre. We have a sitting MP going over as an economic advisor to Ukraine. That doesn't make sense. I can't think of another country that has a situation like that. Can anyone else think of a situation like that? We're just folding some laundry here. Sorry about that. Multitasking a bit. So what does Mark Carney have to say today? Well, he's posted this. Today, the last day to apply to the Summer Leadership Program. This is a great opportunity for young Canadians looking to gain work experience and help build Canada strong. This is what he has to say amongst all the stuff with Venezuela, Chrystia Freeland. This is what he has to say.
Formal trade deal between Europe and Ukraine goes into force at the beginning of 2016. But the EU actually understands Ukraine's pivotal role and has therefore preemptively and unilaterally lifted tariffs for Ukrainian companies. In contrast, despite much rhetoric about Ukraine, Canada has held back, awaiting the completion of inevitably time-consuming formal bilateral trade talks. Why doesn't the Prime Minister do as much for Ukraine on trade right now as Angela Merkel has already done?
It's very clear where Chrystia Freeland's allegiance lies. Meanwhile, we've got Mark Carney jet-setting off to Paris. This is not a coincidence at all that he's going to meet with Zelensky and Macron in Paris just after $2.5 billion of taxpayer money was shuffled over to Ukraine, and now Chrystia Freeland is the economic advisor to Ukraine. Are you kidding me? Yep. Canadians need to take a serious look at what's going on here. And side note, this is actually all dirty laundry. I'm folding dirty laundry that needs to be washed. And perhaps that's why Chrystia Freeland's the new economic advisor. I hear the laundry machines are excellent in Ukraine. Moving ahead, we've got Aaron O'Toole dropping this one here. This year, my end of year essays will take the form of free advice from a former politician. It is worth what you pay for it, I guess. First up, giving advice to the Prime Minister. He writes 2 essays here. There's this one and then part 2 for Pierre Poilievre. The first part here, he just sums up the last situation. What a difference a year can make in politics. Last year, Mark Carney would have enjoyed a relaxing Christmas in Ottawa as a private citizen. Really? Would he be enjoying life in Ottawa, or would he be enjoying life in New York? I mean, anyways, let's just scroll past all this stuff. He says, keep it up. This is his message to Mark Carney. Keep up the good work. Keep it up. I've been complimentary of many of the early moves made by the Prime Minister, particularly his ability to take more serious approach to dealing with the United States and other allies. I'm sorry, what? Mark Carney hasn't got a deal. Serious approach? He said, who cares? He does not care about getting a deal. It's his own words out of his own mouth. He goes on to say, I've also been quite complimentary of Minister Tim Hodgson, who's been given the critical role of promoting Canadian natural resource projects at a time the country desperately needs them for more economic and national unity reasons. And then he goes on to say he got to know Tim years ago, so he knows Tim Hodgson personally. And Tim Hodgson's doing an awful job. He's just rolling out Mark Carney's grift. Then he goes on to say, when talking with conservative friends who've been frustrated with his positive approach from time to time, I try to remind them the Carney government are largely doing what we had been advocating for years. Well, what's that? Pushing the MAID program on people who are in poverty to get them out of this world? Is it pushing more Canadians to the food bank? Is that what Aaron O'Toole was advocating for? Or ripping off taxpayers, more Canadian tax dollars getting flushed over to countries where in projects, places would never be audited, just disappears in the depths of Africa. He says I should be charging royalties for the Liberal government's use of my 2021 Secure the Future platform in 2025. This guy is so delusional. He ran against Justin Trudeau in the midst of many scandals like SNC-Lavalin, and he still lost. He lost when Trudeau was wrapped up in scandals. He's coming out giving his advice. Nobody wants Aaron O'Toole's advice. I'm sorry. It's the truth. And then he goes on to give his advice. The first piece of advice for the Prime Minister is to keep doing what you're doing. There's been a reset in dialogue with the United States and in strategic attention being paid by the government to critical issues facing the country. This strategic shift has been evident from day one with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and it should be applauded. Well, this is just absolutely appalling. This letter is just blubbering all over Mark Carney. He goes on to give some examples here. I mean, we don't need to look at any more of this stuff. He's hardly critical of Mark Carney at all here, applauding him for his approach. And just so everyone can see, I replied to this, O'Toole, you're a traitor. That's all I have to say. And this blew up. Aaron O'Toole got all pissed off at me. And we'll get to that in a second. But just to show what he said about Pierre Poilievre here, he says, advice to the Conservative opposition. This is a very generic article. It's very pillowy and fluffy. And he does say, I know on a personal level how challenging it can be to lead the Conservative Party in a country where being conservative means different things to different people depending on their background and where they live. No, the conservative values are not something you just decide within yourself. That sounds something like a woke leftist would say. What's your truth? Being conservative is exactly as it says, not wasting taxpayer money, reducing spending, getting rid of wasteful foreign aid, logical common sense, building up our military, support for veterans, being a patriotic Canadian that loves this country. The Elbows Up crew, they all suddenly grabbed the flag and wrapped it around themselves when they haven't cared for decades. Donald Trump comes around and suddenly the woke left is patriotic. Being a conservative is someone who has common sense, and that's why it goes hand in hand with restricting wasteful spending. Stupid programs, all this woke nonsense, DEI, men and women's sports, all that leftist stuff does not make sense. It's pretty simple, but to Aaron O'Toole, it can mean different things to different people. And you got to remember, he's a progressive conservative. And when we're saying progressive, like really progressive. And that's something to note here. There's swing voters who like Aaron O'Toole because he's more middle of the line. These essays are going to sway these people's opinion. We'll get to that in a second, but he says, I'm on the record saying that Pierre should remain the leader of the Conservatives and be given a second opportunity to win win the election. He goes on to give kind of a very generic kind of set of advice, talks about Teddy Roosevelt. The leader of the opposition must always project an unwavering faith in the country, but it doesn't really talk all that much about Pierre. And when I read these back to back, I get the sense he's much more in favor of Mark Carney and his approach and him in general. And as a progressive, that would be swaying voters to vote for Mark Carney. Now, is that Aaron O'Toole's plan here? I don't know, but it's one of two things. I think he's either trying to swing voters to vote for Mark Carney, or he's incredibly detached from the political system and reality, because you can see this brouhaha here with him after I said he's a traitor, because really he's posting these articles from my perspective in favor of Mark Carney just a couple weeks from Pierre Poilievre's leadership review. He replies, the wildest and often dumbest comments come from anonymous accounts. Your sheets read like someone who knows how to use ChatGPT and has zero clues about any of the issues. Be better in 2026, Moose. What a dumb reply. I mean, go through and debunk it. Tell me what on here isn't true. Is Mark Carney invested in the Red Chris mine? You bet he is. He announced it as a major project. Debunk it. That's why he's not getting into any specifics. He got ratioed hard here. A bunch of people commenting, supporting me here. I posted this view totals here graphic to him in regards to his anonymous comment, which I do have a bit of an update here. I've removed all the short form views, so it's only long form YouTube views on here. And now we're seeing that the main difference is CTV dropped from 815 million views down to 469. So they actually put up a lot of short clips, but you can see mostly the creators didn't drop all that much because we don't put up that many shorts, but the news organizations do. And his response to this is algorithms let people believe everyone knows their work when in reality it is a large echo chamber. The chart is laughable given the timeline of most things on it. Happy to discuss if you want. Use the word traitor also shows immaturity. Be better, David Moose. You know, Mark Nixon taking some shots at him here, and he's also saying my chart is laughable. Then debunk it. I already told him on here, go ahead, debunk something on it. And if you find something to debunk, I'll change it. He's got nothing to debunk. That's why he's just trying to slag me here and disappear. This guy's such a weak leader. He should just admit that he was wrong, that he didn't know what was going on here. He tried to take some shots at me having no idea who I am, and then he just made himself look like an idiot. There's some comments here like this one, well, you're the leader of the CPC, no one knew who you were. Ouch. I mean, when it comes down to it, he had Justin Trudeau at his weakest moment, wrapped up in scandals, and he couldn't beat him. And you got people calling him out here. Just show parts of the Moose chart that are wrong. Yeah, tell me what's wrong. I'll change it. Go ahead. I'm waiting, Aaron. We're waiting for it. Money is where your mouth is, as the saying goes. Most of it is wrong. According to Aaron O'Toole, most of the Moose chart is wrong. Show some lack of understanding of the history. I used SMR and F-35 as example in another reply. I offered to walk him through it. So I think we're done looking at this stuff. I mean, just, dude, stop embarrassing yourself. The comments in here are funny. Apparently, Aaron O'Toole offered to walk me through how I'm wrong with F-35s or whatever it may be. I haven't seen such replies. Maybe they're buried in here somewhere. As for the F-35s and the precision missile strike system here, these are being built by Lockheed Martin. Mark Carney's invested in Lockheed Martin. There's nothing else to say on this. He shouldn't be invested in Lockheed Martin because this is clearly a conflict of interest. And as I've said multiple times on many of these projects, we should be going forward with these projects. Just Carney shouldn't be profiting off of putting money into these projects. It's not rocket science here. One other thing to note about Aaron O'Toole, he has a Blue Sky account. And as far as I know, I don't know a single conservative that has a Blue Sky account because this social media is only for liberals.